but I was in Oregon today. It looks really well. The
Good.
units have arrived,
Oh, good. Okay.
like the units for the roof.
Yes, I
They've
saw
arrived.
that.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
So there's not a lot we're waiting for there, but there's little odds and ends, right? So security systems up and running in cases, but it's not monitored yet.
I don't know if on TV if you watch Island of Brian. Anyway, it's a program and that's what they continuously say, supply procurement issues. They can't finish the construction project.
We're now live near Rushford.
Welcome council to this meeting of November 8th. On that note, let's proceed with the adoption of our agenda.
Thank you. I require a mover and a seconder, moved by Councillor Champagne and seconded by Councillor Kelly, that the draft agenda presented to council and dated the 8th day of November 2022 be adopted as prepared.
All in favor? They won't carry. Thank you so much. Accepting the minutes of the previous meetings.
A mover and a seconder, please, moved by Deputy Mayor Bahia and seconded by Councillor Champagne. That the minutes of the regular council meeting held October 11th and the special minutes of the council meeting held October 21st, 2022 be adopted as circulated.
All in favor? Carrie, thank you so much. Any business arising from the minutes? Myself, simply to apologize to council and to the public for misleading members of council in when I mentioned it was the last meeting, and it was my error. I made my comments at the end of the meeting, and so we concluded the meeting, and then our CEO advised me that it wasn't the last meeting. So I do apologize for that. And so the remarks are still, they stand as they were included in the minutes where we noted the good work of council. Any declarations of conflict of interest or pecuniary interest thereof?
I may have a conflict on item 18B.
18B.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Champagne.
And reason for conflict, Councillor Champagne?
Yes, I'll do the septic system.
Pertaining to septic system?
Yeah.
And I continue to say anything else or just put, that's the reason? Okay. Thank you.
Devon, on that note, we proceed with item 6, chair's comments. I do want to take the opportunity, however, to congratulate all members of council and as well, Councillor Logie, who's still officially a councillor, for succeeding with the offices that you were that you had put your name forward for, and so congratulations to all of you. And we look forward to next week. So on that note, just to make sure we're clear on next meeting. So our inauguration meeting is next Tuesday, November 15th at 11 o'clock at the East Terrace Community Center. So please don't come here at the Corvette Park Hall. It's at the East Terrace Community Center at 11 o'clock. And as part of our agenda this evening, we're going to discuss public participation at our meetings. And so we're hoping that we'll be able to open it up moving forward, public attendance. Thank you so much, Madam Clerk. And so that's the meeting on November 15th. Then we have a meeting the week after that, I believe.
November 22nd.
November 22nd. So we're not taking any, there's no time off. We're just from one term of council into the other term of council, which is pretty impressive. And then we have our meeting in December, the second
Tuesday is the 13th.
Of the 13th, okay, of December. And then we're into the new year. So just any questions on that, on the schedule? Well, okay, thank you so much. So no delegations to council committee reports. We have none. There was a committee of adjustment. Are there any questions pertaining to that? There being none. There was no board reports. We come to departmental reports, and there was a lot of work done here. And so I'd like to turn it over to our CEO to introduce the topic and move forward from there.
Sure. Thanks, Mayor Rochford. So we've got our engineer, Antoine Boucher, here this evening. From the meeting of September 27th, council had passed a resolution looking for staff to review some proposed speed reductions for our, I believe about 7 roads, I think is what it was. Yeah. 7 roads. So Antoine's here tonight. There is a report in your package with a recommendation from the engineer. So if Antoine, if you don't mind just giving a bit of a high level of the report and your recommendation, and then be available for questions.
Thank you, Jason, Madam Mayor and Council. So you have in front of you the recommendations that we received based on the survey that was completed. We had a good rate of response. It did vary from about 19% to 54% of the people responded. When I say that, I talk about the residents because the letters and survey was submitted to every resident on each roads that were affected. The majority of the people were in support of the change of reduction. There was one road that was actually kind of the contrary, which was Quickway Road. So Quickway Road was more in favor of maintaining the speed. So the analysis that you have in front of you on the second page is very detailed. There's a lot of numbers, and it's the entire numbers that we saw. I think it's a little too complicated for me to go through it and read through it. But the gist of it is that we did a careful evaluation of the data received, the percentage, the weight, what it represented as far as percentage of people, as well as the decision of in favor or not. So from that, the recommendation that is drafted in front of you was indicating that the recommendation to approve the reduction on the posted speed limit for the following roads would be recommended, namely Guillemette Road. Guillemette Road is the only one that's a 50 to a 40. And then when we are looking at the balance of the streets where the survey was conducted, we have Levin Road, McPherson Drive, Noswansing Park Road, South Shore Road, and Waukegan, where the posted speed of 60 would be reduced to a 50 kilometers per hour. Following the recommendation, once approved, there will be a bylaw that we will be drafting in order to get those to become in effect. Eventually, once the bylaw is drafted and passed, there will be the procedure of posting the new sign, replacing the old signs. So ordering, posting, and eventually following with the OTP as well to advise them of the change. So that's kind of what we have in front of us in the next steps.
Just one correction, Waukegan's the 40.
That is right. Waukegan defaults to the subdivisions, which are posted at 40, and then thank you for that. So actually, the majority of the votes was also in favor of the reduction. So you are correct. Waukegan will read from a 60 to a 40.
An excellent report, Mr. Boucher, and so we open it up to questions on the report, and I think Dr. Champagne, you have a question.
Yeah, would you say what the Quickway Road?
So Quickway Road, if you go to the analysis, we can, it's about on page 2 near the end. You have about 56 of the responses received on Quickway Road that were to maintain a 70. So we had the majority of the people responding that were suggesting to maintain, and it was a fairly large percentage still of people that responded. So the overall consensus of that reflected, the opinion, which was what we were seeking for, was to maintain Quickway, not to replace, not to reduce it. And when we drive it, we have to keep in mind as well that it is a fairly straight section. There's not as many curves on it. There's a few hills on it. There is a separate favor that does not require the bylaw, but it would be to put an advisory speed reduction at their crossing, where there's a railroad crossing on Quickway, because that's a bit on a curvature, and it's a section of road that would justify the warning as an advisory of speed reduction at the crossing. But it doesn't have to be part of the bylaw, so it's just additional information in the report.
Part 2 of the question, sorry, I got a little cold. The section between I call Quickway Science Side, which is all the curves right up to basically Quickway Camp. Could that be looked at getting reduced? Because you can't drive at that speed on those curves.
So that section is already posted at a lesser speed. The higher speed is the straight run that is I believe there's the two speeds on
On the sign will be down because I never saw it.
okay, we'll confirm that, but the, from previous, posted that we would have had, the section of 70 is the straight section, and you're correct, the other section has a different posting, and it's completely separate. You know, it's got a lot of winding sections, as we see it, curvatures.
What's it supposed to be posted at right now?
The way I would, go back to my notes, it would be
Even in the slow section?
it would be a 60 in the quickly section, other than the section from Corbeil to the intersection of FCDs, where it changes direction to go towards Bonnfield on the sunny side.
Yeah, so a little clarity on that. That 60 and begins where?
So if we go back to the Quakeway section, we were basically focusing on the stretch that is the straight stretch that goes from Corbeil Road all the way to Urtzibis, where it changes road. So as you've got the section.
Yeah,
on
so that's 70
That's the
and
section.
it's staying 70.
And
So your record, that's your recommendations. So where's the 60 though?
So the winding section from Urtzibis going southerly towards Bonnfield, it's the same. Yeah, that's the section that from the reference document that we have was close to that 60, I believe.
Yeah, Hertzbees, so you're saying from Hertzbees on to Maple, that's strip of the road is 60.
Yeah, I believe so. The maintenance, the focus of the maintenance of the 70 is on the straight run that is from, again, the east-west section. That's the straight section.
I'm just saying, that's a whole different road, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
Just to echo what the mayor is saying, that section of road, don't forget, that's a detour for the highway.
yes,
And anybody that doesn't know that road, they're doing 70 kilometers an hour, 60 kilometers an hour to a dead stop. And it's all winding. I would suggest that section of road between there and Quakeway, the old Quakeway camp should be reduced to 50. That's just my. Look at.
So as part of this work, I mean, for this term of council, what's before us right now is this recommendation here. So we could conclude this work here this evening and bring it back as part of the term of council to look at that other section of Quakeway Road, and it will allow us to verify and have better.
well, Quickway Road kind of ends right where the sunny side and Hertzbees is. That's,
No, actually,
No,
it goes
it goes
right.
by- Yeah.
it goes right.
Goes right to Bonnfield.
Yeah.
It's still the same name, but it's different road.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
So that-
because it comes to a T, a Hercules.
So you would have the majority of the people would agree to stay at 60 or 70 because it's on a straight stretch, but that section of road with all the new people who houses and all that, it's a little monotonous, and also, like I say, when it's a detour, when the highway's closed down 17, they run that section of road.
So is council comfortable with
Well, I'm comfortable with
with this,
everything else.
because we're
Maybe
dealing
look
with
at
that
the other
stretch
section.
of road, that's
I
Quakeway Road?
agree with both councillors because 50 is, I think, more reasonable than 60.
So tonight we're not going to deal with that, but we'll
No,
bring that back for the new
I'm
council.
fine with everything else,
Okay,
definitely.
all right. Okay, so we're good to proceed then with adopting this report
Mhm.
and moving forward with the
And
recommendation.
we'll separate- come back with quickly.
Come back with quickly, part B.
I require a mover and a seconder, moved by Councillor Kelly, and seconded by Councillor Champagne. The Council of the Municipality of East Ferris accepts the recommendation from the Director of Public Works contained in report number R 2022-09 and approves a reduction to the posted speed limit on the following roads. Gidmet Road from 50 kilometers to 40 kilometers, Levine Road from 60 kilometers to 50 kilometers, McPherson Drive from 60 kilometers to 50 kilometers, Nosman Singh Park Road from 60 kilometers to 50 kilometers, South Shore Road from 60 kilometers to 50 kilometers, Waukegan Road from 60 kilometers to 40 kilometers, and that a bylaw be brought forward at the next council meeting adopting the new speed limits.
Favor? Yvonne Perry, thank you so much. On behalf of citizens, some of them have put it in writing, and others have said to us verbally that they really appreciated the consultation. So, Monsieur Boucher, good work. I know, we just commented on the report, but overall it's outstanding with the consultation reports. There's a lot of work here and it's very well done. So, we'll just come back with part 2 quickly road, if that's okay with you in the new term of council. So for this term, this is superb work. Very good job.
Good job.
And good job to the Public Works Committee as well for putting this forward.
It's been a common complaint.
Yeah,
Speed
yeah, and I,
and safety.
obviously you had targeted the right roads because there's support for those roads. So I mean, otherwise it would have been, we would have had the support. So good.
Well, the growth lately has been exponential. So it requires due speed limits to just reflect what the growth are doing.
Yes, that's. Well, thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
So on that note, we proceed then with boards and committee policy review. And so on that note, I will turn it over to you as well, Mr. CEO, to lead us through that.
Okay, thanks, Mayor Rochford. So council had reviewed the boards and committee policy, probably close to a year ago now, I believe it was, or
In the
Sure.
spring, yeah.
yeah. And at that time, some of the council members had put in writing some of the changes that they wanted to see in the policy. Staff had put some forward as well to council. So what basically this policy is all of those comments have been put into the policy and amended. We're looking at this policy because we are going into a new term of council, so it's a great time to be doing it. I don't believe council wants to go page by page. There's quite a bit, and the reason why I use track changes, so anything in red is an amendment. And the reason I did that was just so that council could, easily see what was changed to the old policy. So I'm not sure, I guess.
Maybe just so what might be new, like a major significant
Okay,
item,
sure.
so present subcommittees and.
Yeah, so on page 3, we've changed up some of the definitions. We've added subcommittee as a definition because we had seen over the last term a couple of subcommittees created, so we just wanted to put a definition for that. There's been a bit of a change. Council had looked at it before, and I mean, this is across for most of the committees. Council had mentioned that it should be a council member who's the chair of committees. So those changes have been done right across the board, except if legislation specified that the chair was not a council member. So I'll give you an example. The Public Libraries Act stipulates that once the board is formed, the board votes on a chair. So that's in legislation, right? So we didn't change it so that it was a council member. We also looked at how we go about appointing citizens and council members. So one of the comments from council was, how do council members get to choose what committees they're on? So there's 2 options, option 1 and option 2 for council appointments. One of the new committees is a striking committee. So the thought with that, and that came out, when it was reviewed in the past, was that maybe we form a committee and all the applications that come forward for a committee go to that striking committee, and they make a recommendation for council to say yay or nay. So there's a new terms of reference for a striking committee, and we actually put what members are part of that committee. I will turn to that. So I don't know if we want to stop as we go, Mayor Rochford, and discuss certain things, or do we just go through the?
Let's go through it once and we'll come back to those couple of items that
Okay,
require
sure.
discussion.
Let me just see. So I'll give you an example for the striking committee on page 9. The committee composition was put forward as the mayor, the CAO, director of community service, and then the chair of planning advisory, chair of parks, and chair of economic development. The reason those committees, they have citizen appointments to them. And then the reason for the director of community services is Greg's the only person that's got committees where there is citizen appointments. I say that, I understand the public library board has residents, but the public library board staff, they're not the staff of the municipality. Council makes appointments, so that's the reason for that composition. We did look to other municipalities, they do call it striking committees as well. They have the composition. That composition is actually taken from another municipality. They pick the chairs of each committee, then they have a couple staff members and the mayor. We've gotten rid of things like the communication committee, the municipal office, technical advisory committee, because the office is almost done, as well as the centennial committee, because our centennial is has now, it was in 2021. A couple changes to I would say Parks and Recreation and Economic Development used to have 7 members. We had suggested 5 members because of quorum. So sometimes, you don't have the quorum. So we thought smaller numbers as well when it's a smaller number, you can tackle the items kind of together as a group versus trying to spread the work among 7. You can kind of focus on it. So that's a recommendation that we had put forward for those 2 committees. We changed on page 24, we changed the term of the CMC committee basically to Emergency Management Program Committee. That's in the actual legislation from the province. That's the actual term for it, so it's been changed. In 2019, the fire chief had come forward to council with different composition for the committee versus the control group. That information's been taken into account from that report, because council passed a resolution to accept that report. So that's what's in front on pages 24 and 25. I think those are some of the larger ones. We've also added terms of reference for the police service board. We never had it before, but we have it listed as a board. So that's in here as well. That's also one where I believe, let me just see here. Yeah, no, I think that's about it. We stipulated what committees have remuneration, which ones do not. We also put in a, at the start where it was talking about local boards and committees, we indicated that some of them pay a remuneration. That's up to their governance structure to determine remuneration. I think those are the fairly higher points.
But thank you very much. And I know, Mr. Gillespie, that when we had our discussion, you had taken notes. So they are reflected. So those were notes made by council members that have made their way through this particular document. Councillor Lougheed has submitted her comments in writing, so we have those. And so basically, this is what's before us. So this is just how we proceed. It's a procedural bylaw to some extent for how our boards and committees will operate.
Yeah.
So tonight we have to basically, we're looking for the support. We'd like to be able to pass this policy so that when we move forward with the new council, we'll be able to put these into effect. One decision we do have to make as well this evening, that I would say is first and foremost, is council appointment. So basically, if you go to page 6 of your document, so what we did as our CEO and our clerk, they looked at various municipalities, how they go about appointing council members to various committees. And so basically, there are fundamentally, I guess, 2 options, 2 ways of proceeding. They're here before us, and they're up for us to decide tonight on which one will fit our municipality.
Yeah, if I may, Mayor Rochford, the only kind of difference there was in some municipalities with their larger cities is they've had committees where all of the council members sit on them.
Committees as a whole.
That's more of committee of a whole kind of structure,
Yeah.
which we don't follow that here. Years ago, Public Works was a committee of the whole, and that got changed. So when we looked at it, option 1 is kind of how we've been doing it from term to term. The mayor basically discusses with council members what their interests are and goes about appointing members that way. Number 2 falls in line with many other municipalities, North Bay in particular, does it this way based on electoral results. So we put that one forward.
So the mayor doesn't appoint anyone, it comes to council. So basically, there's a recommendation that that's just a canvassing or a polling, in other words, a discussion, and there's a recommendation that's brought forth to
Yeah.
council.
Yeah.
Where each member's interests is examined.
The nice part about this is it's in writing now, it's formal,
Precisely.
it's the process, right?
That last time, that was the issue. People said, oh, where is it in writing? We didn't have anything in writing. So now we're putting it in writing.
Yeah.
So we have the option of changing our ways, maintaining it, and now this brings greater clarity in terms of how we want to proceed.
A couple of things I just, so that nobody feels that they were blindsided, I mean, the document was provided, but ACTAD went to quarterly meetings, so we've now put it in the policy that they're quarterly meetings. We specified with months just to have some formality, but if the group gets together and decides 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the 3rd Wednesday of every month doesn't work and we're gonna meet here, fine. If January is not a good month and they want to do February and July, that's fine, right? But it was to have something, but we looked at Public Works going to quarterly versus a monthly. More kind of matching up maybe with the seasons. In discussion with Antoine, some of the talks was sometimes we get to a monthly meeting and they're really, what is there to discuss? And then we cancel the meeting or we push it to another one. So that's one as well as parks, trying to keep them more. Do we do quarterly? Which ones need monthly? But that's a council decision, right?
But on the other hand, you can do the same thing, except you can have, I can call the chair. Just emergency.
Correct. So any meeting could be called with the chair, or you can call a special meeting. unless like the library specified you needed so many meetings per year, I believe it might have been 10 unless I'm confused with PSB. But if legislation dictates, well, then we've got to follow. Yeah, so PSB is a quarterly one. So I think the library says you got to meet 10 times a year, I think is what it was, but. So if legislation dictates, that's different, right? Public Works and and fire are always one where there's no citizen appointment to it. But we should be still having public meetings. They should be open to the public because all council meetings are open to the public, right? In a new council chambers, it would be nice because we have a great meeting space and, you know, audio visual equipment to take care of that, but that was something we kind of contemplated. Do we look at maybe citizen appointments for those because they're the only two committees that don't, but we kind of had a talk internally and they're more operations related. What do we need the citizens input, I guess, when you come to public works, right? Everything kind of lines up with budget.
Specialty, those are specialty, committees too.
Yeah.
You just nobody can sit on them, just, you know.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like there's a lot more to it. There's a lot more depth, there's a lot more, you know.
Yeah.
Just. You put, citizens who certain committees, you know, like it's what you'll, it is, you know, for their knowledge of.
I can't hear
We
what you're
can't hear
saying.
that, I think.
Yeah, so
that-
certain, I would say, certain committees that, you know, you don't need the citizens themselves. Those are the fire is one, and I think public works is, you know, you said it.
they're More
And then
operation.
They're more operational, and those are, you know, ones that you need to have a little more knowledge.
Yeah. The only thing council might want to consider, and we're thinking like 4 years from now when we review a policy, right? I look at other municipalities, they tend to try to reduce the number of committees there are because of the number of work involved, your council meetings, and that's what they've gone to, and I'll give you an example, North Bay, they got general government. That covers everything from finance to the clerk's office to various functions, right, budget. Then they've got community services. Well, community services is all the parks and recreation and bylaw and everything falls under there. And then you've got one of the committee, infrastructure and operations, where that's your public works, your sewer, your engineering, everything. So 4 years from now, we might say, well, it makes more sense to go that route, where fire might be looped into community services with parks and rec and that. And then we might have infrastructure tagged with something, so, you know, like there's the thing with this council is there's so many different structures out there. There's 444 municipalities in Ontario. Nobody's doing identical unless you're a larger city. They kind of follow the same way. So
Councillor Kelly, I'm sorry, he's had his.
Oh,
hand
no,
up.
that's okay.
Yes.
No, I agree, because here's how. Between the Director of Roads, Antoine, and Steve and I have run along with our staff member that takes minutes and so forth. We basically touch base with Antoine and say, is there anything major? Because we get asked, and I'm sure Rick does too, about what's going on with the roads, because everybody, and the last thing you want to do is say, oh, I have no idea, I'll find out. Because you're on the roads committee, so it's important, in quite frankly, in my opinion, to be planned on a monthly basis. But we will phone ahead, the same as Mr. Curtin, Greg Curtin, I'm on planning as well. Every now and then he'll phone and say, not this year, but some years, there isn't much going on. Actually, he canceled one meeting, about a month ago. One meeting we canceled. We had a number of extras, but we canceled one. So what Steve and I will do, we'll get together, we'll call each other and just communication with Antoine saying, is there anything major? Nothing major, no need for a meeting. But if it's scheduled on a monthly basis, then it's called, we can call it up, we've called it off 3 days before because nothing major is going on. But we get asked on a regular basis. I'm sure Parks and Rec, I'm sure you get asked, what's going on? Because we've got seasonal activities now. It's not just the arena. There's a lot going on in the summertime. In fact, more going on. It's more diverse in the summertime than it is in the wintertime.
It's a good point you make. It's important to be informed.
I think it is.
As well. Yeah.
Because that's what people depend on us for information. They don't want to call the staff and bother somebody, but they'll ask you, you know, you're at the Fresh Mart or wherever, and what's going on? You want to know. So that's why I say, even if it's informal, we have to communicate. So that's my thought. I have one other question.
We, go ahead.
As far as committee structure goes, are we automatically including, what happens to the people that have been on the committees for the last, some cases 15 years? Do they have to, bless you,
Everybody reapplies, so.
they have to reapply?
The current policy, like not this one here tonight, the
Yes.
current policy 4 years ago when council got on said. We will grandfather that policy in for that term, but the next term, everybody reapplies.
Okay, now, if they've been sent a letter explaining that,
Uh,
what I'm thinking is, I think, in my opinion, I think a letter should go out to the president, the members that are present committees saying, thank you for your years of service.
yeah,
The policy has changed, but I think they should have the first right, in my opinion, of refusal, saying, I've been on that committee, blah, blah, blah. I mean, we got people on the planning board, which is a separate issue. They're long-term and they're very knowledgeable.
I
To just say, oh, we want you to apply now without any explanation. They've already started to walk away.
yeah, the issue with that's council's decision was already made, right?
I understand that.
And I know a lot of the committees were told at that time, and I believe Greg was one of them that. He sent an email, I'm aware of Greg's.
Yeah.
To his committee members as a thank you. Go ahead, Greg, if you don't
I
mind.
was just gonna say, they would, I advise all the committees that I'm part of. So they will be aware, but it's like a formal letter.
I just say, thank you for your past performance, your past volunteerism, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Because they don't get paid. There's very little, there's money, little remuneration for planning because of site visits.
Yeah.
But other than that, thank you for your years. But we have a new policy and we encourage you to apply. Because in my opinion, these are people that we've depended on.
Yeah,
To just say, no, you have to, it's like, we're not sure if you're gonna make it or not, you have to reapply.
Yeah.
That's the way we lose people.
the reason Councilor Kelly 4 years ago was because council had discussed that. Some of them have been on for a long time, and if everybody says yes to coming back, you never get any new blood on committees.
Sure.
So now with the striking committee and you have everyone reapply, the ones that really want to come back will apply. The application is in a very lengthy process, right?
No,
But then you can look at continuity and new blood, kind of for a committee and say, okay, planning is a good example.
Mhm.
You would hope that you get a few members back for that continuity. They understand the policies, procedures, and then you get some new ones. When you get the team together, you get fresh ideas, but also that continuity to get to go forward. I can tell you planning is, the committee's almost estimated. I don't believe if there's one or two coming back, the rest are not, as we've already been made aware. I know the library board was also aware that everybody would reapply.
okay. I just think a letter
Yeah.
saying thank you.
I would say we're all in agreement. with that. I
Yes.
think
You
it's-
hear that, Steve?
Yeah.
Okay.
Adi Shaw,
Okay.
Councilor Champagne?
Yeah,
I like.
I just feel that, I kind of agree with Terry is saying and what we're saying, we're all saying the same thing, but at the end of the day, we've had people who are there a long time. I think what we should be doing, we should be asking them, thank you for being on the board. If you're willing to sit again, please give us your indication. They may not, they may know, but at least they know that it's a process. At least we give them the option of saying, yeah, you've got the option to come back, but it may not, but at least you're there.
Yes, so that letter will see that.
I just, without saying anything and being negative, is if I was on a committee and all of a sudden I'm supposed to reapply after being there for 10 years, I get a sour taste.
Yep.
And I think that's why we gotta sit there and give them the option to say, yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, well, we all, I mean, for elections, the same thing. We served 4 years, we reapplied.
oh, yeah.
We should just add on to that too, is we made agreements with regards of. Having a counselor being the chair,
Yes,
right?
Mhm.
So just, I know Rick wasn't on it at that time, but that came on also as an added on, right? So. There was a few more things. that
yeah, the
added on to
striking
that.
committee is a very nice feature. If I may, that comes, I find that it's been a nice addition to this particular policy. Basically, after we've named our chairs to the committees. So basically, personally, I was very uncomfortable always discussing the appointments of citizens onto committees in a public format. We don't really accept you, we don't accept you. I didn't feel so this striking committee, these discussions are going to go on between the three chairs of those committees that our CEO mentioned, with the staff members involved in our CEO, and that's how, and then it'll come forward to council for an appointment for for approval, final approval. The nice thing about that is once you're named as the chair of the committee, you also have time to solicit members that you would like to maybe see on your committee, work with you. So that's also an opportunity to maybe, do a bit of encouragement for some citizens that you know would like to be involved, and it could be good to, on your committee for you to achieve the things you'd like to, or that we'd like to achieve. So basically, I thought that was personally a really nice feature of our policy. I should say as well that when our new council is formed, we're going to be reviewing our strategic plan. And we're going to be doing a public consultation like we did last time, a survey. We probably will have an open house. And so there may be a need for us to revisit and maybe some of our committees, some of our mandates, we may want it, but potentially not. I think overall, we could probably, they've been drafted in a way that they're broad, so we could probably handle all of our business under their current terms of mandates. But that's where the idea of subcommittees. If we want to say, for example, we want a special committee to focus on, the beautification of the municipality. So that could be a subcommittee of parks, recreation, and culture that would have a specific focus. So those are things that we could maybe look at as we come together, not to have more committees. I think I'm very mindful of what our CEO was saying. We have to be careful the amount of work we generate. They can only, we can only do so much, but at the same time, we need to engage citizens. I think that's what we're saying as well. We need engagement in certain areas, so we'll have the mechanisms if we need to do that as part of this policy. Are we, Councillor Law, Councillor Paul? I just got her name.
I feel like a trustee. No, I think that what has really come up in the last 4 years is it's necessary for, we're talking about not transparency, but education of the public. Going back to the planning board, there's been a lot of changes come up in the last 2 months out of Queen's Park on the planning. I'm going to have Mr. Curtin speak to that under new business. Because some of the decisions are being taken out of the planning board's hands, quite frankly. And I've just finished a Phenom meeting. I was up in Kapuskasing on Friday. And it went at there's major issues in planning. They're taking a lot of the decisions away from municipalities. And I wish they'd make a rule for Barrie and South and Barrie and North, because it's two different pieces of real estate altogether, and needs and wants are incredibly different. And it's really showing up in some of the policies coming out of Queen's Park. And there's concern across Northern Ontario. So like they're taking away site plan controls unless there's 10 units or more. And now they want 3 houses on a lot, not just 2, which they only put in a year and a half, 2 years ago. So there's some major issues the public's not aware of, and they come back to the planning board or council saying, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? And quite frankly, decisions are good somewhere. In some cases, they're going to be out of our hands. So it's a major issue.
But you're saying the same thing though. On planning, you should have people there that actually know the act, and have someone in the chair that knows the act.
Exactly.
Because otherwise you can throw people out the fire.
And that's
it would cost us in the long run.
that's going to be like, I know the committee's been decimated, and it's unfortunate because there were some very knowledgeable people on the committee. It's too bad. Anyway, let's wait and see how it goes, what kind of applications we see. But I'm in favor of the letter. I know we all are. So.
Yes, just real quick. So, and just looking at the red highlighted remarks here. And we just touched base on it real quick. I'd like to see taken out as you have it in a couple spots. Jason is, or as required. So when you get into meeting procedures, and you said you have them now either quarterly. So we understand that some committees or most committees can go to quarterly, but or as required should still be there. So then
For all committees?
Yeah, just for having those options. So then I mean, I think it's a safe catchment for certain things that do.
Yeah. Good one.
Okay.
or at the call of the chair.
So we,
Yeah, or the.
or the call of the
yeah,
chair.
I-
Yeah, there's
that's
another
what
good point.
Yeah,
couldn't
no,
remember
I agree with
exactly how you
Steve.
said it, but yeah.
Yeah, I agree, because I mean, we've had windstorms, we've had floods, I mean, we have emergencies, sure.
So before now, we come back to page 6. Any other specific comments as Deputy Mayor Tran just made? Or we, okay,
I'm happy, I'm gonna say that if you want to look at the option one, you can follow it.
okay, so you're ready to move on to discussion of the option, okay?
Just so I can have clarity, Mayor Rochford, number one, I'm changing public works to monthly meetings, or do we leave them quarterly and at the call of the chair?
Yeah,
That's fine, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so all of the meeting procedures will be at the call of the chair, I'll add, and I'll leave everything as is. Okay, cool, thanks.
and the letter, we've all agreed that. the
Yes.
letter- Okay, that's,
We should do that at the end of every term of council
Yeah.
anyway, have a letter ready to go for
Yeah.
all committee members.
And I know, I know at the Christmas party, it's a thank you. For everything that the volunteers have done, and I know, in Rochford, you make a special point of that, because we couldn't afford to pay all the volunteers that volunteer. Without them, we could operate, but not near as effectively as we have.
that's true.
So, and this is just Christmas party's a way of saying thank you, because people do it together. It might be the husband or wife coming to a meeting, but they do it as a couple.
Yeah.
So that's for the family. I agree.
So one thing we've added in here as well, I mean, we think that there's no more, as ourselves, as council members, we can't have any relatives on a committee. So we've also that's been added in there. So for example, a spouse or a child can't sit on a committee of council.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah,
Sure.
so we didn't have it in there before, so now we've got it in. That's why. That should even.
It'll be hard for some people, because there's a lot of relatives. in it.
Yeah, but I think they put a definition. Immediate.
Yeah, but immediate, yeah, just like conflict of interest.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's move on into page 6.
I'm fine with, if we're gonna,
Yeah,
a
we could
straw
just go
vote.
quickly go right, okay.
I'm fine with option one.
Option
yeah.
one, okay.
I-
Deputy
Are you
Mayor Tran?
Option one.
Okay, so we're done. They gone.
Okay.
So Madam Clerk, we're good to proceed.
Are we done? You want to accept? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. I require a mover and a seconder, moved by Councillor Kelly and seconded by Deputy Mayor Campaign. The council approved the amended boards and committees policy as prepared and presented. So we will prepare the changes and it's going to be your policy.
No, all in favor? All carried. Thank you so much. Now we move to bylaws, bylaw number 2250, Mr. Gauthier.
Yeah, so this bylaw, Mayor Rochford, is a bylaw to authorize the borrowing for the new municipal office, so it's called the debenture bylaw. Basically, where we're at right now, we're borrowing $4.8 million for the building, but if you look at the schedule and are confused by the 3.8 million, that's what's been advanced to date. So we got construction financing up to 3.8. We could have went right to 4.8, but we've been financing the project on our own with our own cash flow, so to save interest, right? So this bylaw is to proceed with the debenture, which would be sold on November 15th, next week. It's a 25-year debenture at 4.65%. Amortizing is the term, so it's the same payment every month is what amortizing means. And the 4.65% is locked in for 25 years. It never needs to be renewed.
Perfect.
So that's
good.
basically, yeah.
That's good.
Now, the project doesn't mean that it's costing 4.8 million. Our budget was roughly $5 million was the figure we were given, but that was the amount we had got secured from Iowa. For that amount.
Good.
And that's in
Investment
keeping
Ontario,
with our budget as well.
Infrastructure. on here.
Infrastructure Ontario. Sorry.
No, not at all.
I
So
said,
it's all good.
some people would not understand what IO was.
Yeah.
Yes, very well done.
And just for council's info, our first ever debenture from IO matures in December. It was a 10-year debenture at 1.2 million. So that was the first time the municipality ever borrowed, and we're done for 10 years and 2 months. So, yeah.
A little bit of history, and Councillor Champagne was part of it years ago. At one time, we had no loans, no debentures. Paid as we went, always in the green. And we got penalized because we would go for a grant. You don't need help. you've got money in the bank, you have reserves. We end up borrowing money to get money. It sucks. Like my granddaughter says, you gotta spend money to save money. And that's exactly what happened. But we were chastised by the
Correct.
provincial government and federal,
Yeah.
saying, no, we give it to the needy, not, you guys are not needy.
Yeah, correct.
You people are not needy.
Yeah, we've got a second debenture that matured this year as well. It was a 5-year debenture from 2017, I believe it was.
Mhm.
So 2 of our debentures matured this year,
Mhm.
year end.
Yeah,
So, and then we added debentures. So I mean, I think we keep comfortable levels of debt as the years go on. Some fall off, some get added.
cool.
So,
And originally, we had budgeted $6 million for the municipal office and the fire hall. So I mean, this is a new municipal office, plus it has the staff space for the fire department. And so basically, I think it's good overall, well done, it's within budget. And so congratulations. And so I think we can put it forward for approval.
Very well. Mover in a seconder. Moved by Deputy Mayor Hannah and Councillor Kelly, please have your hand up.
I did, yes, thank you.
Whereas Council for the Municipality of East Terrace deems it expedient to pass 3 readings of the following ballot this session. Be it hereby resolved that a ballot authorize the borrowing upon amortization debentures in the principal amount of $4,800,000 towards the cost of the project name list be read in first, second, and third time passed and numbered 2022-50. And that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation.
All in favor? C'est bon, Terry, thank you so much. And maybe just a quick word, Monsieur Trottier, with respect to when the new municipal office will open, now that we don't have an actual municipal office committee.
so Mayor Rochford, the project is coming to an end basically with their contractor Canalex. So they should be done everything within a few weeks, I would say, at the building. There's a few outstanding things. There may be a couple outstanding things even after moving in. I mean, that seems to be normal lately with projects, but the bulk of it is done. You may have noticed recently, part of the building was painted. So it would be just the ground floor portion of the old school, not where it's a double layer or double floor, basically where the gymnasium is. That was left, but the rest had old markings on it from the old school. So we had paid to have that part painted. The RTU units have arrived, they've been placed on the roof. They're not operational yet, nothing's been balanced. But things are coming along really, really well. We've had no major, I guess, deficiencies or issues. Order's been put in as well for furniture, so we're waiting on an ETA for that. At first, we were told 2 months and we're about a month in. So we expect that to come, that's why I was saying December. Flag poles are up, you probably noticed that lately, so they're waiting for flags to go up, which won't happen until we move in. Yeah,
January.
so I would say possibly right before Christmas break, we get to move in. We're waiting on the furniture, is basically where we're at with that. We've gone over audio visual for the council chambers, so we've looked at that, a new screen, a new projector. Speaker system, things like that for council chambers as well. There's actually a lot of moving parts, and think with the project, how much is involved, but it's come along really well. So if anything, if the furniture doesn't get in right before Christmas, we do close the office for about a week. So we'd be looking at moving in around January. So I think we can comfortably say sometime in January, we'll be in there and then look to plan like a grand opening. So, and any council member that would like to go and take a peek at it, I bring you in for a tour anytime you want to see it. Yeah,
And just a question, we're upgrading our system because we're going to be available electronically from now on, correct?
that was basically the.
Yes, I've always discussed that.
We won't be using OWL system.
That's what I'm saying, it's gonna be,
Yes.
because we get nothing, it's unfortunate, we did what we had to do, but the new office is gonna have an upgraded system, and it's
That's
gonna be a
Yeah.
lot better quality.
We've also got mic pods for the tables, so it can handle up to 6 mic pods. So the pods are, if we look at us right now, we would likely have one right in front of the mayor that's gonna pick up both of us. We could put 2 on councillor tables. We've got one for a delegation table, so we've got enough to cover that.
Terrific,
That was the mics you guys had talked about before, but this OWL system doesn't, you can't put an external mic with the OWL system. It is its own. So that system does handle that. It's got the video as well, 360 video.
okay,
Yeah.
good, that's great,
So an upgraded system.
looking forward to it.
Yeah, the council chambers is really nice. it'll likely handle 99% of the meetings. The reason I say 99 is you could have a contentious planning meeting. I would say that if 100 people decide to come out, you're not gonna fit 100 people in there. But with the technology being able to be on YouTube and electronic meetings, I guess the thoughts are you'll have less people coming to a meeting, they'll be looking at it on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
So
Most people have one or two issues they're really interested in,
Yeah.
and they move on.
we'll sit between 40 and 50 residents.
Oh, that's great.
Once we get the chairs in there and we see what's the best way to kind of set them up to maximize seat capacity, we'll know then. But it would probably be between 40 and 50, not counting council and staff. So.
Good, terrific.
Okay, on that note, let's move forward with bylaw point B.
The short road allowance.
Wait,
Mover in the seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Champagne, seconded by Councillor Gibson. Whereas council for the municipality of East Ferris deems it expedient to pass 3 readings of the following ballot this session. Be it hereby resolved that a ballot proposing convey a part of the road allowance and shoreline road allowance described as parts 1, 2, 3, 4, and 11, Plan 36R 14940, being part of the road allowance between concession 2 and 3, lying between lots 13 and 17, and part of the original shore road allowance in front of lot 14, concession 2, Township of East Ferris, District of Nipissing, be ready first, second, and third time, and passed in number 2022-51, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation.
just a quick question to Monsieur Trottier and Mr. Curtin. This is in keeping with the discussion that we've previously had with respect to this property. Is there anything new that has changed in nothing at all?
Nothing new, this is just correcting council's decisions that passed with regards to the land swap, as well as the purchase of Mr. Rivers lands.
On favor? It's all carried. Thank you so much. Correspondence and information, Deputy Mayor Trahan. Thank you. Councillor Kelly.
I've got item B, item C, and I was gonna have a little discussion about item L. Jill Perron complaining about the depth of Lake Nosmuson. I've got rocks in front of my house that's been there since I was a boy, and the depth hasn't changed very much. I don't see, Steve, have you noticed any major changes?
No, there's no changes.
No, Pauline, how about you? You noticed?
Yeah. No, however, I was going to recommend that we defer this matter to the staff for a response.
Gonna go back to Manitoba Conservation Authority and get some info. maybe?
Yeah, to prepare a bit of background on the history.
Good idea, because they monitor the
And,
lakes.
So the point I guess you're making, well, we could maybe discuss this item right now while and we can proceed with the other items. If I understand correctly, the point you're making, Councillor Kelly and Deputy Mayor Janice is agreeing with, is that there have been no changes. It's been years that the lake level has been at this level and we're not in a position
We
to
we
recommend.
do get a spring, fall fluctuation, but it's nothing drastic. I've seen no flooding. We had the one flood there, but that was overall, that was everybody. So, yeah, I had number B and C. I was gonna
So we'll
defer
refer
to,
that to staff.
Correct.
Yep. I was gonna defer back to Mr. Curtin for number B. Any concerns about this municipal housing and affairs, the changes, Greg?
Yeah, so Bill 23, I guess I would start by saying, this is probably like the single, biggest, piece of legislation in planning that I've ever seen in my career. As far as like scope and like kind of scale of what's being proposed.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a ton of significant changes, like this is a full load overhaul to Native Parcel Planning Act, Conservation Authority Act, Development Charges Act, Agri Act. So yeah, I mean, I can give you a bit of a high level kind of overview of what some of.
I think it'd be worthwhile for our knowledge.
Yeah, so some of the things that you probably heard them talking about are the 3 units, which you alluded to earlier. So that is something they're proposing, is that there be a primary dwelling unit, the ability to have a secondary unit in, like, say, a basement apartment, and then also a secondary unit in a separate structure of the building for a total of 3 units. I would say that that's probably nowhere near the most important change, in my opinion. It's probably wouldn't have a significant bearing on us in East Ferris. For example, we passed our new zoning bylaw in January of this year with 7-unit policies to allow for one additional unit. And we haven't actually had someone build one of those yet. So I don't think we're gonna have a situation where we're kind of overrun with 3 units per lot on existing lots. I would say some of the more concerning things, are the changes to the Conservation Authorities Act in particular. So one of the things that we rely heavily on through our planning process is the kind of input guidance from the Conservation Authority staff when it comes to like natural heritage element, environmental like reviews, like identifying comments we receive. So what's being proposed actually is that not only are they not required to provide us their comments, they're actually not allowed as comments on those. So the Conservation Authority is actually being banned from having any involvement in the development application process in municipalities. It seems to be kind of an effort on the part of the government to remove environmental review almost entirely and just make it easier to push through development applications. That's kind of my read on it. So I would say that that's fairly concerning. You mentioned site plan control earlier, Councilor Kelly. So it is true that they are proposing that site plan control not be implemented for anything under 10 units when it comes to residential. It's not entirely clear what exceptions will be granted to this. For us, we primarily use site plan control for lakefront properties, and we do that for shoreline protection, erosion control, different environmental protection measures. It's not entirely clear yet whether things like that will be considered exceptions or be allowed to continue. So that's something that I would want to keep my eye on. There's a bunch of changes to things like development charges, which we don't implement in East Terrace. There's a few minor tweaks to parkland education and how it will be collected and how and when it needs to be spent. That's nothing I think would be very concerning to us specifically. There is, I'm just scrolling through my notes here. There's a lot.
There's also the wetlands.
The wetlands, which are specific, right?
Well, any of the wetlands, I was talking to Cheetah today, and that's one of those. Gonna come up for our meeting, our next meeting. I got it open here now, and it's the changes are relevant to the CA's, the entire wetlands valuation system. Who's gonna say yay or nay? Who's gonna be in charge of it? Is it gonna be our Kelly's farm, or is it gonna be somebody from North Bay? Or is it gonna be like a survey company or another survey, and we can have the option to say yes, this is good or bad. That's one big objection.
My understanding seems to be that they're intending on the municipality being the ones who make a determination when it comes to like wetland development area or development wetland areas, right? But yeah, we're going to hear more on this. I actually have this Thursday coming up, meeting with different staff from the Nipissing region and both Scott and Chitro from the Conservation Authority, and they're going to give us a bit more of the Conservation Authority's perspective on these changes.
See, on the septic program too, same thing, the local change now.
Yes, I just one comment. I think if you don't mind, in the interest of our taxpayers, if you could make up a short report before the convention started in the early part of the year, because this is something we could go to the ministries with and say, these are our concerns. So a little background, I've got a little insight because I've got a relative that's been waiting for a new home just south of Lake Simcoe. And they've been waiting for 3 years and they're being held up with organized committees of regular taxpayers, and they're finding loopholes on how to stop development. Now, this third, just for clarification for anyone listening, and for council, this third house and the second house, you can't do it on the lakes. So lakes are exempt from a second dwelling or a third dwelling so far. But that's what's going on. And so this is the government's way of saying they're tired of all this, everybody throwing up, big block date, and they're pushing through development. The letter states it all from the ministry saying how many millions of homes they're going to build in the next 10 years. So it's like, damn the torpedoes, here we come type of thing, but it affects everybody across, because it's a Muppet phenomenon. It's a major issue across Northern Ontario. Because we've always had regular planning and consistent planning. And
Just a quick question for you, Greg. Would this supersede our official plan?
Yes, so yes, the short answer is yes. Basically, our official plan has to comply with the planning act and it has to comply with the provincial policy statement. So any changes here, whenever there's major pieces of legislation like this, they're usually written in a way that there's a transition period where we just always have like a set amount of time to incorporate the legislation and policies. Both of you actually have this is a great segue to the next piece of what we're talking about. So with regards to the official plan, that's what one section in here, it was being proposed is the minister can actually just unilaterally make changes to municipalities' official plans. Currently, the minister has to recommend to the Ontario Land Tribunal that the hearing take place for changes. So there is the element of the legislation that we comply with, but there is also a recommendation to give the minister more broad powers to make changes to municipalities' official plans. It's written in a way that says that when it's applicable to a matter of provincial interest, and matters of provincial interest are specifically defined in the policy statement. So it's not entirely broad, but the matters of provincial interest are quite vague. So
You need a lot of questions asked. And not an answer, like you talking with the crown land, stuff like that.
Exactly.
That could fall.
yeah, no, this is a major piece of legislation.
if you could make it a short report, if you wouldn't mind, before, if possible, before the convention started, because it's something to take to Toronto.
I'm sure we won't be the only ones that will be complaining. about it.
Exactly.
But public consultation is still open on this until November 24th.
Well, I know that's why we're having a meeting just before November 24th to actually get this on docket for conservation for it.
So would it be before, for us to,
Well, that's what I mean. I mean, once legislation passed, how do you reverse it?
no, correct?
I wouldn't
It
wait
has to be
until,
now,
yeah,
to be now.
but I think council. I mean, that's a tough one right now for Greg to come forward with a recommendation. Well, what does council like and what do they not like about the act, right?
Mhm.
What Greg might like, you may not like and vice versa. There's a lot to chew here.
Yeah, maybe if you don't mind, just I have one other point and then.
Sure.
I'll finish the floor for council's comments.
Sure.
Just the last kind of major piece that's relevant to us, more relevant to all municipalities is basically appeal rights and public meetings. So you may remember about 2 years ago, it was, I forget the name, it was the precursor legislation to this, it was More Homes, More Choices Act, it was called. There was a change to subdivision appeals. So basically, you're all aware of the process for a resident can appeal an application, they go to the full planning board or council. And then it gets scheduled at the provincial tribunal, et cetera. So about 2 years ago, subdivision approval specifically were changed to not allow third-party appeals. And a third-party appeal would mean they're not the municipality or the applicant, so a resident from the community appealing a decision. So the only people that were eligible to appeal subdivision were the municipality or the applicant. This piece of legislation proposes that all of the development applications get similar legislation. So basically, this means that no resident in the community would have appeal rights for any planning act application. So the only people that could appeal to the tribunal on a minor variance, consent, minor subdivision, official amendment, zoning bylaw amendment, would be either the municipality or the developer. So if the municipality says yes, then done deal. It gives council more power to improve housing, which can be helpful, especially in bigger cities that are building now. But it also removes public input drastically and kind of takes away a lot of the rights of the citizens when it comes to appeals. So that's a major change. And the second part is related to that is building on subdivision of appeal rights. They were that public meeting process, or no, not public meeting, but appeal rights were removed 2 years ago, and now they're proposing to remove public meetings. So a plan of subdivision, you will no longer require a public meeting. You just pass the concept, and it just happens.
What, my gut feeling, Greg, and thank you for the comments, is that I think it's wrong to do with the green belt down south. And this going back to what Terry was saying earlier, usually we judge very north different than the south.
Yeah,
This is what this is being pushed to get more development down south, more stuff, but they're taking the whole province in the same on the same page, and that's what's gonna hurt.
Yeah, it's tough. A lot of these things are geared towards GTHA, so basically the Gold Horseshoe area. A lot of them are either not particularly relevant to us or even harmful in some cases, I would say, because we don't have that same type of development pressure. Some of it is related to expansion of Greenbelt, which I think most planners would uniformly kind of disagree with that as being a good concept to start with, but some of it is related to that. And there are a bunch of other elements here that I didn't talk about heritage act amendments and different things that are related to us.
Thank you, Greg. Yeah, that's,
May I recommend, and based on the comments, if, once you've examined the whole matter, or if the role the council should play, you would advise us of that, given the timelines, where we're at in terms of the new council coming in, would that be appropriate once you've had the consultations
So,
this week and?
yeah, is council asking for us to bring something back November 22nd or?
That won't happen.
No, simply if you believe there's a role we should be playing, something we should be doing, you would let us know, inform us of what that might be.
Okay, the conservation authority is on the record.
Correct.
for sure. So
And you're there.
That's our backbone, really.
Yeah, they'll only take care of certain pieces that affect the conservation. Authority, right? So I always kind of chuckle at these things, you know, to hurry up and pass an act to get things done faster, to cut out any red tape. And then, you know, as a municipality, we deal with problems for many things and it's never all that fast. We've been waiting 6 years for an official plan.
Well, it's like,
You know.
control agreements, they're saying it's no fence, it doesn't fall under the conservation authority, it might all falls under the labor act. So the conservation can't force them to put self-fencing on properties.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
But thank you.
there's a lot of
for
concerns,
making
there's a
sure
lot of concerns in here, that's for sure.
The municipality is preparing a press release for the building statistics for the municipality for the year that reflect all the work that has been done in the planning committee. And just quickly, I understand that in terms of new homes, we're at 50 as of today, new homes. Last year, we were at, was it 29?
29 in total for the year at about 27.5 million construction activity. We're at 50 million, or sorry, 50 homes right now at 34.5 million or 35 million approximately.
Yeah.
So like last year was a record year and then you look at this year.
It's off the charts.
Yeah.
No question. I also had number C
Yes.
because it looks like boats are gonna take the place of the Airbnbs. In the Muskokas. Floating hotels.
So that's just for,
I
didn't see that applying too much to us, except that it was more,
Not yet,
yes.
not yet. No, but look at the eye opener it was when we found out how many places for rent
Okay, so we're.
in our municipality. So never say never.
Good note. Okay.
Anyway, I just
Yeah.
want to endorse it and support the motions. That's all I have. Thank you.
I think this was just
Just
for
information.
information, it's just for information.
Yes,
Yeah,
it
yes,
is.
correct, okay, thank you,
Mhm.
yeah, so, well, thank you very much, I do agree that was important to bring forward. Councilor Champagne?
Yeah, no, I've got is F for the conference early bird registration.
We-
It's gotta be in by the November 18th.
Yes, okay, well, you're
So-
correct, yeah, go ahead.
Are you planning on? Okay. Counselor Kelly, are you planning on going to Roma in January?
I have actually, I've got a privacy issue there.
Okay,
So
so I would know.
Yeah.
If things change.
thank
closer
you.
to
If
that,
things change, I
it's
will
still
certainly,
okay.
I'll
Just
certainly
miss the
reapply.
deadline.
Thank you.
So Counselor Champagne,
I definitely will be going.
Counselor Deputy Mayor. Kim?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
I might be staying on a boat in the harbor.
I would suggest we reach out to the new council members
I
as
did.
well.
Oh.
There's also Ojeri on the list, Mayor Rochford.
Oh, yes, that's true.
The blocker rooms opens November 15th
Oh,
and they're all booked within 10 minutes. So
Okay,
it would be good to know who's going to OGRA and who needs
Okay.
rooms.
Deputy Mayor Dennis? Yeah. Councilors Kelly and Champagne, would you hurry?
I can't commit. Thank you.
Okay.
Councillor Champagne, you get booked through OGRA.
Okay.
I just have to do you.
But in the event, okay, perfect, thank you for mentioning that, so, anything else, Councilor Champagne?
No, I had the same thing as Carrie did. It was very important on C. Obviously.
Okay. Okay. so the delegations, so basically for Roma, we still have till November 18th, so we're gonna have another.
November
No,
20th.
I'm so sorry,
Yeah,
yes,
you
yes,
still
yes,
have your
November
next
28th. So we still have our next meeting, but
Yeah.
nonetheless, it's important that we put forward, think about it.
Yeah, that's all I wanted to point out is that delegations are due November 28th, so if we only discuss it on the 22nd,
Just give us.
it gives you time to think about it till the November 22nd meeting.
So I,
Yeah, you think they would have taken a council year into account, but
We had said education, and I do want to point out, I don't know if we have it in. Yes, well, we do have the support for a resolution, it's coming back under item B, but I just want to mention. Certainly, the current issues facing education right now has raised the matter that we had written our resolution for. You know, the pay for early childhood educators, or retention of early childhood educators, it was front and center. And so we had said that we would pursue and want to meet with the Minister of Education on that, on behalf of our citizens. So that was one delegation that we can officially say we committed to doing that. So anyway, we have, if you could think about it, and we have some time. And, but as you point out, it comes quickly, so.
if you can add that, Monica, to the agenda as well, for the
I will.
20th, just so we don't forget.
Yeah, well, I'll need a resolution anyways
Yeah.
at the next meeting. Because it's just to send it out, right, Jason?
Mhm.
It's just to send out saying we're requesting regarding blah,
Yeah.
blah.
Well, I'm sure we'll be looking at Mr. Housing too. There's right, so that's one thing
Or,
for delegation. Well, the
Or-
issue with Bill 23, I'm sure everybody was there for the same reason.
Okay, so we'll wait, so
Yeah.
definitely, okay, good point. So keep our eyes open. On that note, if there's nothing else, we will proceed with action items, the approval of correspondence.
Thank you. I'm over in a seconder, please. We're by Deputy Mayor Trahan and seconded by Councilor Kelly. The council approved the correspondence and information as circulated with the agenda on November 8th, 2022.
All in favor? C'est bon, carried, thank you. Support for the resolution was put forward by Great Highlands Municipality.
I'm over in a seconder, moved by Councilor Kelly and seconded by Councilor Champagne.
That we supported increasing speeding rates.
The council support the municipality of East Ferris supports resolution number 2022-571, passed by the council of the municipality of Grey Highlands on September 7th, 2022, regarding increased speeding funds.
All in favor? C'est bon, carried, thank you so much. Approval of accounts payable.
Mover in the seconder, moved by Deputy Mayor Trahan, and seconded by Councilor Kelly. The council approved the general accounts for the municipality of East Ferris as indicated in the check register dated November 8, 2022, in the amount of $971,804.38.
All in favor? C'est bon, carried, thank you so much. Other business, Madam Clerk, or was that yourself, Mr. Theo, Madam Clerk, or whatever you wish to proceed?
I just put it on the agenda in regards to council going back to in-person meetings or having the public back to in-person meetings. Simply because we do have our inaugural meeting next week at the Community Ferris Center. And it's a big room, so people will be able to distance themselves, and I don't know, it's a council decision, and I just wanted to be ready if we were going to be going in person.
Do you have a resolution?
I have one prepared, I can put it on the
Yeah,
floor.
let's proceed.
I'll just read it and then after that, council can move it and second it. I just put the council for the municipality of East Ferris returns to having the public in attendance at council meetings effective November 15th, 2022. And further that COVID-19 precautions be followed by all individuals attending council meetings.
We should also mention that as part, when we do move into our new premises, we will be as well having the ability to carry on both in person and electronically.
Oh, yeah,
You still have to carry on
Both
electronically.
Okay.
yeah.
It's one, Councilor Champagne.
I agree with you about the person, also the new buildings, you have an HR system of recycling the air good enough and.
Yeah.
You know, it helps with, the flu, COVID and things like that. I think it's time to get things like this as much as possible.
And if things get worse and
We can change.
yes, we can change it all the time. It's always something we can do.
Okay. Proceed.
So do I need a mover in a second? Moved by Deputy Mayor Trahan and seconded by Councilor Shanghai. I'll read it. The council for the municipality of East Ferris returns to having to be public in attendance at the council meetings effective November 15, 2022. And further that COVID-19 precautions be followed by all individuals attending the council.
All in favor? Devon, carried, thank you so much. No in camera, confirmatory bylaw,
Mover in a second here, please. Moved by Councilor Kelly and Deputy Mayor Trahan. Whereas council for the municipality of East Ferris deems it expedient to pass 3 readings of the following bylaw at this session. Be it hereby resolved that a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council from October 11, 2022 to November 8, 2022 be ready first, second, and third time, passed and numbered 2022-52, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation.
all in favor? Devon, carried, thank you so much. So now we'll proceed with bylaw number 2253. And our CEO will provide background explanation in terms of why it's after.
I was gonna.
Okay.
To explain why.
Okay.
Yeah.
Please proceed.
All good.
So this bylaw coming forward is a borrowing bylaw, that's basically the name of it. What it does is it authorizes staff to put forward an application to Infrastructure Ontario to borrow for the new public works garage. If you look at Schedule A, we've got an estimated expenditure of 2.6 million. There is a contingency built in there, the reason being, and at the last meeting, we discussed what the cost was gonna be. But for Infrastructure Ontario, I wanted to build in a contingency that if anything was to happen, we don't have to go back to them and get a new approved limit. So the loan amount would actually be $1,420,000. The difference between that and 2.6 is the amount of money we're getting from insurance for that build. So there is a buffer or a contingency built into that value. What it does say in the bylaw as well as you're approving staff to go forward with an application that in the end will allow us to do short-term financing, construction financing until it's built, till we go to debenture. So it's basically just giving that authority to move ahead. This doesn't mean we're approved with Infrastructure Ontario yet. They received the application, they received financial statements, all the backup documentation they needed from me. But this is the final piece to say council approves an application. So that's what this is. The reason it came after the confirmatory bylaw tonight is that the bylaw that's stipulated in Schedule A is the confirmatory bylaw that we passed right before this one. The reason it comes after confirmatory tonight is that the approved project, when we discussed it, was at a special meeting. We had not passed the confirmatory bylaw till tonight to confirm those proceedings. If it was done at a regular meeting, we would have already passed that. So this bylaw would have been before tonight's confirmatory bylaw. That's really the only reason. It was a legal issue brought up by IO that this bylaw had to be numbered after the confirmatory bylaw from the special meeting. So that's. Yeah. Now, just a bit of information for council, I was told that once this is all submitted, I mean, underwriting started their work at Infrastructure Ontario. They said possibly 4 to 6 weeks before we hear something. That's usually their time frame. But I've also seen 10, 12, 14 weeks. It's at their discretion, right? So, but I'm hopeful that everything's in order and that we'll get a quick approval or at least an answer, right?
Good.
If for some reason Infrastructure Ontario doesn't extend borrowing, then we'll look to our RBC or another chartered bank. Obviously, we need to proceed with that building.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I require a mover and a seconder, moved by Deputy Mayor Trahan and seconded by Councilor Kelly. Whereas council for the municipality of East Ferris deems it expedient to have 3 readings of the following bylaw at this session. Be it hereby resolved that a bylaw to authorize the submission of an application to Ontario Infrastructure and Lands Corporation, OILC, for financing of certain ongoing capital works of the corporation of the municipality of East Ferris, to authorize temporary borrowing from OILC to meet expenditures in connection with such capital works, and to authorize long-term borrowing for such capital works through the issues of debentures to OILC, be read it first, second, and third time passed in number 2022-53, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation.
All in favor? Devon, carried, thank you so much. Adjournment.
I require a mover and seconder, moved by Deputy Mayor Trahan and seconded by Councilor Shanghai. that we do now adjourn at 7:20 PM and meet again on November 22nd, 2022. But there's actually the inaugural meeting is November 15th.
Before we finish, before we close out, don't forget tomorrow, Remembrance Day.
We thank you for mentioning it. So tomorrow, Remembrance Day, 10:30 at the Senate House. I don't know if we're all there. It doesn't start at 10:30. It starts at about 20 minutes, after 20 minutes after, just to make sure we're there on time to prepare. Okay.
We got an
And then
email from the OPP. Does that anything to do with the Remembrance Day?
No,
That's just